Okay, hello everyone. So good to see everyone. So if we are looking at our agenda, we're going to start with our welcome and our overview. So I just have to, I think I have the correct setting. Um, so let's get started with our welcome and then we can do our thing. Um,
Michelle, can I stop you 1 second?
no.
No. All right, let's keep
We're
going, I guess.
hungry today.
Um, One thing we often like to do just before we get to that welcome is just call the meeting to order. And that's just all you got to do there,
Sorry.
Michelle, is you say, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 1:07 p.m., since that's what my clock is reading right now. And that just
Okay,
helps us on a meeting minutes tell us when that meeting has started.
absolutely. I thought by you saying that that's what we're doing. So hey, let's call this meeting to order. The party is getting started at 1:07. With that being said, uh, we can go with our council members and I'm going to not go first, I will go last. So I'm going to ask if there's any council member that wants to start, please unmute yourself and begin. And we usually generally start with something about ourselves, a physical description, and then we let it roll through. Or I'm happy to choose someone.
I'll
Jessica, I love
go.
it. You went first. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Um, my name is Jessica Reichel. Um, and I don't remember what else we're supposed to say.
Well, your voting member, something about yourself, maybe
Okay.
what you're wearing today, how you're looking, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Um, I don't know what color top I have on. I get confused which ones are which colors. um, 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 oops. And I am a voting member. And I play the harp. I just started harp lessons again, so I'm excited about that.
Amazing, Jessica. You're beautiful. You appear to be at least beautiful in black today. So thank you for that. Let's see. Uh, anyone else that would like to go before I have to call on someone?
I'll jump in, Michelle.
Yay.
Hello. I almost said good morning. It is not morning. My name's Alexa Gagne. It is afternoon. Good afternoon. I am a white woman, dark brown hair. I'm wearing a brown hoodie today, just at my home office, stepping into the sunshine every few minutes to enjoy the beautiful day. And I am also a voting member on the IDEAS Council and happy to be with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, friend. Good to see you again. Next friend. Let's see. Chris, would you like to come on camera and join us today? Next. Okay, Chris says no for the camera. Would you like to come off of mic or off of mute and share with us? Oh, okay. He's saying thanks for having him. Brother, we love to see you. We'd love to have you. Um, Perfect. Uh, then how about my illustrious, venerable co-chair Brian B.
Greetings. Brian B. Brian with an I, B with a B, glorious mess that I am. And I am a voting member here. And co-chair for 2025. I'm a white guy with a gray beard, graying beard, in my 50s, and I'm zooming in from a home background today. Grateful to be here. Thanks, Michelle. Pass.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother. Uh, Molly, are you able to share with us today?
Hi, yes. Apologies for running late, everybody. My name is Molly Mason. I am wearing a pink cardigan and a gray t shirt for my union representation as I'm a special education teacher in Denver Public Schools. And I have sunglasses on still because I just came back from meeting a student. And I have brown hair and I am a white female. So I'm glad to be joining you all. And I am the liaison for Rocky Mountain Human Services Community Advisory Council. I believe I got the acronym correct, but I'm not positive. Okay, thank you, Michelle. Thanks, Brian. Glad to be here with you all. Should I choose the next person to go?
I think I'm the last
Okay,
member. I think all the other members have spoken. So I'm Michelle Dumais. I co-chair with Brian. I'm coming from my home office. Even though those pronouns are she and her, everyone that knows me knows that my favorite pronoun is me, me, me. I African American female, happen to be Muslim. Today it is a beautiful day to be in blue, so I am coming to you from my home office in navy blue scarf, glasses, light blue shirt, and I'm here because I have a kiddo that just became an adult last Wednesday, and yay. Yes, we didn't know we were going to make it this far, but we're very happy to be here. So I raise my voice in places and spaces where maybe she cannot and where her folks cannot, but where their voices need to be heard. And so I'm so happy to be here. Uh, it tickles me that you guys thought that I should co-chair. So we're gonna we're gonna see why it tickles me today. I think that's all of our members that are voting. I also am a voting member. And then um, uh, should we allow staff to introduce themselves, or is it just okie dokie for them to throw it in the chat? What do you think, Brian?
Let's invite Kisley to say hello.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kisley Blue. I'm the Male Levy Program Manager here at Rocky Mountain Human Services. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a Black woman in my 40s sitting here in my home office wearing a white shirt today. And I'm a non-voting member. Thanks.
Okay. So I I did see a few things in the chat, but they went by a little bit quickly. So Corey, is there anything there that I should or that you could speak about?
No, I don't think so. I
Okay.
feel like folks are introducing themselves in the chat. So we've had our DHS staff will gladly do that. Um, just so that everybody knows. I'm going to take the mic and I'm going to introduce myself here as the final introductor person. And then I'll go on to our next welcome and expectation and overview
Okay.
leading into our meeting minutes. And then I'll turn it back to you there, Michelle. I'm Corey Boyle. I am the Denver Human Services IDEAS staff secretary for the advisory council here. I help ensure that these meetings occur and that invites get out and host them on Zoom here. I am white, male presenting person with light stubble on the lower half of my face and short, dark brown hair upper half of my face with square, dark rimmed glasses, wearing a red and white patterned shirt. It probably looks pink on the screen, I think ish, with a Denver Empower Field / city skyline background behind me and a headset on. Yeah, and welcome to our advisory council. I appreciate that. Lynn, if you wouldn't mind sharing the slides at this point, and we can start at the agenda part.
Can I just jump in real
Oh,
quick? Can
yeah.
I ask you all to give me a woot? I believe this is our last time to be graced with Corey's presence. Corey is moving on out of state. Thank you very much for your energy and the blessing of your organization with us for a couple years hanging out in Denver.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. This will be the last time that I serve as official staff secretary, I think. But I'll be here for May. I'll be in that meeting. I think we'll maybe, when we haven't fully discussed this yet, but I think we'll maybe have somebody else just serving in my role for that one so they can get their feet wet. So be nice to them. Um, but yeah, and then
We're only
we'll,
going to be nice to them if the meetings are on Tuesdays.
okay, you got it. All right, so today's agenda, we are currently in our welcome and meeting overview. After that, we will get to council and partner updates with our breathing and uncertainty time. Then we will move to ideas funding and our budget update with a presentation from Michaela Hennick, our program manager, who has introduced themselves in the chat before we get to take a break. Although you are welcome to take breaks throughout this. And then we will get on to reviewing a Voices Mini Grants Denver resident feedback survey before we get to public comment. Now, we won't get to public comment because there were none submitted. So at this time, we have no public comments. If you ever want to make a public comment, then you need only go to our written comment form. The links to that are included on our site and in our agendas that we send out. So thank you for that. Lynn, you can head to that next slide. Great. And so you are attending an IDEAS Advisory Council meeting. IDEAS stands for Intellectual and Developmental Disability Equitable Access to Services. Our mission is to partner with the community to manage local taxpayer dollars dedicated for Denver residents with intellectual and developmental disabilities and developmental delay. We do strive to make Denver an inclusive community where people with IDD feel welcomed, valued, and empowered to live the lives they envision for themselves. And this council here is comprised of Denver residents with lived experience with IDD. They meet monthly, typically on the last Tuesday of each month, to discuss all sorts of topics relevant to Denver residents with IDD. And they use community feedback, individual knowledge, and expert presentations to provide recommendations to Denver Human Services about the best way to prioritize funds and programs. Some ground rules. Lynn, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide there. We ask that everybody remain respectful of everyone attending the meeting, both in the meeting, after the meeting, outside the meeting. Stay muted, raise your hand, and then unmute to speak. Introduce yourself when you are speaking. This helps people who might not be able to see you on camera know who is talking. Try to stay on topic and consider if your point speaks to the benefit of people in Denver who have IDD. That is why we are all here, to champion the values of the community as opposed to the individual interests we ourselves hold. All of our meetings are public and recorded. Chats are also posted publicly. They are posted on our site. You can go to denvergov.org/IDDEAS to see all of our advisory council meetings. This also means please don't put anything private into the chat that you don't want posted publicly, as I've mentioned before. All of our votes will happen in the chats, so ensure that your chat is set to communicate with everyone. We vote by saying yes or no when a vote is called to action. Always remain safe during these meetings. If you have to, you can leave the meeting and you can rejoin when able. This means that if you are taking the meeting in a car or something like that, please be safe. Follow all laws and don't worry about voting or doing anything like that until you have come to a safe location and you can do that. Always respect and honor the Denver Code of Ethics. This means calling out any conflicts of interest and recusing yourself if you ever need to. We don't allow AI or other third-party accounts or apps unless we have given express permission before the meeting. This means if somebody has asked for a specific reason for accessibility purposes, perhaps. Otherwise, no AI allowed. And then last but never least, have fun, speak up, and advocate for your community. We've already done introductions, so we'll skip that one. Today we do have to do meeting minutes review, and so I will turn this over back to you, Michelle, but I want to make one more point. We have to review not only March's meeting minutes, but we also got to do February's. And so I sent those out to the council members ahead of time. Please vote on and approve those separately. So what you'll do here is you will just you will say motion to approve February's meeting minutes. A second will hopefully come for that. Give some time to vote in chat, confirm that, and then move to the next one.
Okay.
If anybody has revisions to either of those, we can give a few seconds for people to speak those up for either. That'll just help us keep them in order. So, because somebody might have revisions for February, but not March, so we just want to make sure that we account for that. So I'll let you go ahead.
So if we start with February's first, this is Michelle speaking. If we start with February's minutes first, I'd like to hear if there are any revisions for February before asking for a motion.
This is Brian B. I have a question. Corey, can you tell me, please, when I query my email, what's the name of the email that you sent that has the notes on it?
Yeah, give me 1 second and I'll find it for you.
Thank you so much.
Michelle, this is Alexa speaking. I was curious, are we approving February or the March minutes?
So as I said,
Do
we're going to do February 1st.
Oh, and then March.
And,
Oh, sorry.
and then March. And I was just asking if there were any revisions for February and just giving folks a few minutes to, pull it back up, look at it again.
Oh, thank you for clarifying.
Absolutely.
This is Molly. Brian, I just looked up it as well. The subject line that Corey sent, because Corey, I'm sure you sent lots of emails about this. It was April 29th, 2025 IAC public meeting. And it has both the meeting minutes from February as well as March.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you so much for voicing that, Molly. And I see you put that in the chat. And just a reminder, change our chat settings from hosts and panelists over to everyone, and then watch it because it changes back sometimes for some reason. So just when we're putting messages. And then thanks again, Molly.
Thank you.
So I'm just gonna give another minute for folks to make sure they don't have any revisions for the February minutes, and then I'm gonna ask for the motion. So this is Michelle again. Could I have a motion to approve the February minutes, seeing that there were no requests for revisions?
This is Molly. I motion to approve the February minutes.
Thank you, Molly. Could I have a second, please?
Brian B.
Okay, so then if we could, thank you, Brian. If we could, Corey, is it okay to ask that we approve them by voting in the chat?
Yep.
Okay, so if we could just give an affirmation, again, if your chat is set to everyone, then to approve them, then we can move on to the March minutes.
This is Alexa. I motion to approve the March minutes.
So, Corey, do we have to vote are you counting the votes, or do I have to say that I see 1, 2, 3, 4 approvals for the March? I
Yeah,
mean, for
but
the February?
we have 6 attending council members, so that is a majority, and so we can
Okay.
accept that. Oh, we got a fifth. We can accept that and move right on. Whenever we have a majority, honestly, we could actually just call it right there, even if we haven't had a final member vote or something like that, and just get
Okay.
right to the next one. Yeah, but
Okay.
yes.
Perfect. And Alexa, would you like again to make the motion for the March minutes? Oh, I'm sorry. Could I ask if there are any revisions for March first?
This is Molly, and I apologize. I did attend the March meeting late as well. But I thought that I had provided an update at some point, but maybe I didn't. And for the RMHS CAC, but maybe I didn't. I didn't see it in the notes, and I just don't know that I missed the first part, and maybe we moved on and I didn't provide the update. But that's the one thing that stuck out. But my memory, um, could very well be failing me. So no worries if I just didn't. But
What I
that's the
would
one.
say is, I can go and double check, as these are all recorded, and make sure that I didn't miss it, and it might have literally just been my bad in missing that section. And so what I would say is motion to approve with the addition of any possible updates from the CAC meeting, if there are any. Because that would be the revision that we would change. And then when I post these, we'll put out the updated one, if that is in there.
Okay, so I guess Alexa, then you have to change. Oh, there it is. Brian did it. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
In the chat, we see Brian says he motions to approve the notes with the revisions for a CAC if it's apropos. One of my favorite words. Thank you, Brian. I love to see that word. Could I have a second?
This is Molly. I'll second. Oh, sorry, Alexa.
We both second.
Great. So we have a second and a third. Could we then please in the chat vote to approve the March minutes as so duly noted? Okay. So we have a majority in the chat. That's amazing. Yay team. So then those minutes are approved, and with that, I think we can go on to our next agenda item. Take it away, Brian.
Lovely. Let's send some love Michelle's way, stepping into her power. Co-chair. You too might be co-chair in just less than a year.
Oh, you know what, Brian? I think I made a mistake.
Oh, we need to go to the council member updates.
I think we need to do the updates first. Yes. So could we have our CAC update first, and then we're going to go to our breathing in uncertainty. And this is Michelle speaking again. My apologies for identifying myself late.
Oh, good. Thank you all. This is Molly. So the Rocky Mountain Human Services Community Advisory Council met earlier this month, and we spent a good amount of time going over the bylaws and kind of discussing, like looking at the CAC, the Community Advisory Council operating procedures, and the charter, and discussing any potential updates or just making sure that everything was like made sense and worked, on both sides, and that we were all good. And Kisley and Michelle were also there and wonderful. It was a hybrid meeting. I was attended virtually. So we discussed the bylaws and charter, and then we also went over and Kisley shared community initiative announcements from like this current year for the different community partners that received the grants. I believe I should have taken better notes, and I will in the future. But it was interesting to hear about the different community initiatives that they will be working. We discussed making more connections with those and understanding, how those community initiatives are working, and being able to like build those relationships with those organizations and understanding them so that we can help our community and know what awesome resources are out there. And we discussed scheduling the meetings just like we did here before too. So that's my update.
That's great, Molly. And your notes are great. You're doing great. So with that being said, I don't know if we have any other partner updates. I don't think so. So, Brian, now breathing in uncertainty, please take it away.
Lovely. Thank you, Molly. Stepping into your power, and we have some new service positions that we're all, taking some community leadership, because that's what this is, a community advisory council. I feel like if we're going to talk about mill levy funding and advise Denver Department of Human Services, it's only fitting to acknowledge the uncertain or tenuous nature of having a disability, or for that matter, having a pulse in April of 2025. And hopefully we'll have a pulse again in May of 2025, just around the corner. The uncertainty might be related to getting services. It might be related to health insurance. It might be just related to getting to the next day. And there's a lot of changes in funding. There's a lot of changes in the hopper or coming, and uncertainty for any number of reasons. So this is your chance to speak up, to be heard. You can share a feeling, you can share a fact. You're also welcome to just sit here and be here in space with no pressure to say anything. This is a space, though. You can talk directly to me if it helps you to talk to one person, or if you know somebody else and want to talk to them by name, feel free to do so. Current affairs, mindfully, professionally. Begin with something not so serious, because that is my specialty. I often eat when I'm on camera. Brian, why are you being so unprofessional? It is a choice. One of my go-tos is pumpkin seeds. I highly recommend them, roasted, salted. And it's partly because I need to take care of myself, and I hadn't eaten until now. And I want to model the example of taking care of yourself. So if you need to come with your camera off or need to eat, let the dog out, take care of yourself while you're here. Other thoughts? Something that you're facing, thinking about? Jessica's got a bagel coming up in the chat. Awesome. I'm being lighthearted, but there may be some very serious things, and those are welcome too.
So this is Michelle. I'd like to share something. I had said that my kiddo became 18 last Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a process. And I don't just mean her living as a process. I meant all of the substantiating of her disability and all of the gathering of paperwork and reports, and constantly looking at all of the things that we use to justify her being in services. And at one point it felt like an onslaught of just sharing everything my kid can't do. And now, tomorrow will be a week, and gosh, what a difference a day makes. What a difference 2 or 3 days make. And I'm just reminded of uh, like the sun kept coming up and it would set and it would come up and set, of course. But I'm just reminded that like things pass and sometimes we just have to be still and we have to let things pass. And then sometimes we have to get 10 toes down and sort of weather a storm. And I would say that I would just remind myself first and others that might be going through something that there are people that care what you're going through. And some of those people are here uh, on camera. Sometimes they're not here. They're here and they're not on camera, but just know that people care. And sometimes when it is, when you got to get those 10 toes down and you got to dig in and wait for that storm to pass, I mean, just keep reminding yourself that it literally does pass. Nothing stays the same. That is an actual impossibility. That everything can change and everything will change. And sometimes we have to be the change. Sometimes we have to look for the change. But we should, in these very uncertain times, remind ourselves that nothing stays the same. Even uncertainty, it just doesn't stay the same. So uh, everything that is in front of you, something behind you prepared for you to get to the point where you are now.
It deserves all the loves. And for me, Zoom makes that handy with a little heart floaty reaction. Heard, Michelle, that big difference from youth services and supports to adult services and supports is something that a lot of us have lived, or the onslaught of all the things that someone cannot do. Yeah, heard. Also, if I could have some timing support, I think we have 5 more minutes for this section. I meant to be more time aware when I started and I forgot, but I think it's around 5 minutes.
Yeah, so we're about at 1:40 now. We're behind here. But luckily we're often gifted some time that we very expediently spend when we don't have any public comments. So what I'd say is it's about 1:40. Breathing Uncertainty was scheduled to end around 1:35. If there are final reflections, comments, statements that people want to share, why don't we invite those and then we'll move on to the next agenda item. Does that sound okay?
Sounds great. Thank you.
I see
Molly,
that
I see
Molly
you
has her
again.
hands up. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to, something that came to mind with breathing and uncertainty in my day job. I work with students and I'm teaching like a class of specifically our students who are graduating, who are exiting public school and exiting their public education, which a lot of them have been in public education since they were 3. So it's a really big change for 20 and 21-year-olds to be making this graduation change and another transition. It will be next month, but just in a couple of weeks. So all the uncertainty and the unknowns of a transition out of public education. And that adds on to all the uncertainty that's happening in our world currently too. So yeah, it's helpful to have this moment just to reflect on it and to remind ourselves that we're doing everything that we're doing everything that we can to help and support the young adults as they make these transitions. So thank you all for providing the space for that too, just to reflect on it. And
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And thanks for that. We're not having meetings just to have meetings because we don't have something else to do, but I have it be intentional. And so I appreciate hearing that having this moment helps. If you would like, council, we get to direct what this council does, and we can make more space for this, I think it's fitting considering the climate that we're all in and the work that we're all in, the community that we're all in. Any other concluding thoughts? All right. Well, thank you for staying breathing. Somehow we're in this together. Over to you, Michelle.
So with that, we our next agenda item, thank you, Ms. Michelle. Brian, thank you. This is our part in the agenda where we get to hear about funding and a budget update. So Corey, it says 135 to 210. So should we make the break a little bit longer, or should we stop at 210, or sort of go along and then see how we're doing and give a 5-minute warning, or what do you advise?
That's a great question. I'd like to let Michaela direct that since she will be the one giving the presentation. My thought is to allot the same amount of time that was allotted before. So if we are starting here at 1:42, that's a 7-minute differential. That would get us into 2:17
Okay.
to end that. But if an earlier end is prudent, then that's fine. If more time is needed, then that's fine. We can do a check-in as we get close to that. And then what I would also invite people to do is if that's a bit of a late break, take whatever space you need, take care of your body as you need to do it. Turn your cameras off, and you can go and take breaks during this if you need to go use the bathroom or get some food to help you engage with it. So that's always a welcome thing to do. Just, make sure you stay engaged as best you can, but also take care of yourselves. So with that, we'll go into 2:17 there. I'll turn it over to Michaela, even though I just ate some of her time by talking about it. And we'll go from there.
All righty.
So Michaela, before you start, would it help you if I told you when it is 2:10, and then that would let you know you got 7 more minutes? Would that be of help?
That would be wonderful, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
This is Michaela speaking. I use she, her pronouns, IDEAS program manager. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And many thanks to you, Michelle and Molly, for sharing those beautiful reflections and especially things that are going on in your own homes and your work lives with the people that you love and support. That was really beautiful and one of the most meaningful parts of my day for sure. So just wanted to express my gratitude for that. How are folks doing? Kind of move bodies, get ready to kind of switch gears a little bit. This is one of our kind of more denser updates, but I wanted to give you all a funding and budget update so that you know what our financial situation and forecast is looking like, and kind of just do a little bit of a refresh for everyone on where our money comes from, what a mill levy is, and then answer any questions. So right here, I have a slide that reads IDEAS funding and budget update. It has a little picture of a piggy bank with $1 in it. And then it kind of lists the main topics that I'll be talking to you about today. I'm going to tell you about where the IDEAS mill levy money comes from. I'm going to tell you how much there is currently, and then a review of how we are currently spending it. Next slide, please. Alrighty, so a few of the key concepts that I'm going to be referencing now are revenue, expenditure, and fund balance. So when I reference revenue, I'm going to be talking about all the money that we get each year from the voter-approved Denver Developmental Disabilities Mill Levy property tax. When I refer to expenditures, I'm going to be talking about all the money that we spend from that revenue on services for Denver residents with IDD and the administrative costs to manage that fund. And then when I mention fund balance, I'll be talking about all of the unspent revenue from prior years. So if we bring in, say, $100 one year, just for a point of example, but we only spend 95, we would end up with a fund balance of $5 from that year. And then if we do the same thing next year, if we bring in $100 again, and again, we only spend 95, we'd end up with another $5, but that would make our fund balance $10 because we have the $5 unspent money from the first year and then the $5 unspent money from the second, and then that continues to roll over. Any questions so far on any of that? I'm scrolling through my everything here to see if I'm missing anyone. Okay. All right, next
Michelle
slide,
or I
please.
will help you with that too if we see something.
Thanks, Brian. We'll move along then. Okay, so this slide provides an overview of the mill levy property tax. And you can see a picture of a house and a picture of a big commercial building, and there's arrows from both of them leading to a big dollar. And that's supposed to represent kind of how I envision a property tax. Excuse me. So this is money that comes from taxes on commercial and residential properties within the city of county of Denver. And typically property tax generates revenue for the city to support local programs like libraries, schools, affordable housing. We have one that supports the pension for our firefighters, one that provides funding for revenue for social services at large. Those are all types of property taxes we have here in the city and county of Denver. And a mill levy is a particular type of property tax that is based on the assessed value of the property. And that rate is expressed in mills. And so the assessed value, something to remember here, is different than the market value. The assessed value is going to look much lower than the market value, what you could sell your house for today if you were to put it on the market. It's a percentage of that, and it's calculated specifically for the purpose of determining a property tax. So 1 mil is equivalent to $1 per $1,000 of assessed value. So in 2023, and I just pulled this from the assessor's office website, there's a hyperlink in the left-hand corner of the slide there in case you want to check it out. It provides some pretty good information for understanding. It's just, for me, it's been pretty complex at least. So a typical home in Denver was averaged about $631,800, and that's the market value, what you could sell it for. The assessed value would come down to $38,645. And so $1,000, $1 per $1,000 assessed value turns out to about $38.65. All that to say, that's about how much a typical homeowner in Denver is paying each year in a mill levy tax, is about $38 for each property worth about $630,000. Any questions on that?
Michaela, this is Michelle. I do have a question.
Yeah.
So this is the assessed value, and you, in your example, the 1 mil, you said a typical home. Is it that also our commercial entities, the mill levy also comes from our commercial entities as well?
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
Does it also mean that in places like out at Den at the airport, when when those areas also become developed, do we receive any benefit from the airport, which is its own separate, taxable entity? Do we also get mill levy funding because the airport sits inside of the city and county of Denver? Do we also get mill levy dollars from that airport, which is technically a different mammal?
That is a great question, Michelle. I am not sure. Would it be all right if I followed up with some of our finance folks and got back to you on that?
100%. I'm just curious to know if we get money from that as well. Thank you so much.
Great question. Yeah, I will look into that and follow up with you via email if that's okay.
Absolutely perfect.
Wonderful. Anyone else? Okay, let's go ahead and go to our next slide, please. So the Denver Developmental Disabilities Mill Levy is one of many mill levies that are taxed on properties within the city and county of Denver. And it was approved as a ballot measure back in 2003 by nearly 70% of Denver voters, which is really great margin. It shows a lot of support for our community, which is fantastic. Many other metro areas in our county have a similar mill levy to support people with IDD, including Arapahoe, Douglas, Boulder, and Jefferson. And all of the money generated by the Denver IDD dedicated mill levy tax, all of our revenue, is put into a special human services revenue fund, which is the Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Fund, or the IDEAS Fund. So that's the money that we'll be talking about. Next slide, please. And just to provide kind of a little history of our mill levy, and I'll go through this pretty quick, so maybe we can I'll try and get us out by 2:10. Is that from the time this mill levy was passed in 2003 until 2017, all of those mill levy dollars were spent exclusively by RMHS on behalf of Denver residents with IDD, and that was per city ordinance. So if you looked into the city law, there was no other option to contract with different community providers like we do now. It went right to our community-centered board, what is now currently our case management agency that was managing all the Medicaid and state dollars for individuals with IDD. In 2015, RMHS and DHS, as the manager of the Developmental Disabilities Mill Levy Funds, underwent a city audit, which resulted in DHS taking a more active role in the administration of these funds. And at the same time, there was a change in leadership at Rocky Mountain Human Services. And so you saw a big shift in how Rocky Mountain Human Services was spending and mill levy dollars, and a big shift in how Denver Human Services was managing those dollars. And so you started to see a fund balance accrue. So that was, we went into a place in time whereas our Rocky Mountain Human Services before had been able to expend all of the dollars that were appropriated to them each year from these revenue dollars. Now, as we went through all these changes, our revenue, the money we're bringing in from the taxes each year, began to exceed what we were able to spend. And so you had this kind of big piggy bank start to fill up, in addition to what we were spending every year. In 2017, IDEAS sat an advisory council, you all for the first time, to help advise us on how to spend those dollars that were building up in the piggy bank since that fund balance started to accrue. And then in 2019, City Cloud allowed DHS to contract funds with other vendors outside of RMHS, and we hired our first IDEAS program manager. Next slide, please. So this is taking a look back at our projections for 2024 and then what actually came in. So we've got a bar chart here, and we've got 3 different categories that we're going to be looking at: revenue, expenditures, and fund balance. And the blue bars on the left are our projections. So when I gave a similar presentation to you all around this time last year, this is what we were projecting in terms of revenues, expenditures, and fund balance. And then the red bar on the right shows what actually came in. So you can see that we ended up bringing in a little more money, about $0.6 million more than we thought that we would bring in. So we brought in $27.4 million in revenue in 2024. And our expenditures were about $5 million less than we thought. So we were projecting that we were going to spend about 29.3 million. And we only spent about 24.3 million of that. And a lot of that was due to our community partners that we contract with spending less than we had contracted them out for. So just because we obligate money in a contract to these partners doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to spend it for a variety of different reasons. And that's what ended up happening in this case. And so because of that, our fund balance also grew. We were anticipating that it would, that we would continue to spend down into our fund balance. So at the end of 2023, beginning 2024, we had a fund balance of about $19 million. This time last year, we thought we would be able to kind of shrink that a little bit more to about $16.5 million. But because of that reduction in, because our expenditures were less than what we thought we were, our fund balance ended up popping back up to about 22.2 million. Any questions there?
This is Brian B. May I ask a question, not of you, but of the council?
Please.
So some of you do this professionally, and this is all very basic. This is a community advisory council, and we're not professionals in this, in state fund administration or in accounting or finances. And so I really appreciate Denver Human Services giving this overview. Are there any questions from some of you? Perhaps you're looking at, or perhaps you're not seeing the bars and the overview, how much money is there? And we're talking over the period of about a year, and it's all at $30 million and then a bit below that. Any other questions or clarification that you would like as we get oriented here? I got to imagine that a screen reader doesn't do this any justice, but I don't have one of those, so I don't know. Feel free.
Michaela, oh, sorry.
Please,
Sorry,
Alexa.
excuse me, Brian, this is Alexa. I was curious on the full time frame of the year. You might have said this earlier. Is that go through, is like there's a fiscal year? Because like obviously the fund balance has not been spent all to date. So is that through July or August or at the end of this year?
Super great question, Alexa. Thank you. So the city goes off of the calendar year for our fiscal year. So our fiscal years run from January 1 to December 31st. And so that's what you're looking at here. We are looking at what we were projecting through 2024, and then in the blue, and then the actuals through January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2024.
Thank you for clarifying. That's helpful.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up. That was a great question. I will remember to put that on my slide next year. And thank you so much, Brian, for that super articulate invitation to ask questions. And I just want to echo that, yes, please do not hesitate to ask questions. This is really dense, difficult material. And would love to kind of chat through if anyone is feeling any questions or confusion. Here's another way to look at it. It's really simple. Is revenue the money that comes in, expenditures the money that goes out, and the fund balance is what's left over.
Michaela, this is Alexa. When you put it that way, it actually is very helpful. Thank you. Better bring it down to ground level. A question I have then is, if there's still a balance, then maybe you're getting to this. Is there a reason like some of the funds weren't spent, or like is that part of the mini grants that maybe the organizations haven't reported back yet? Or yeah, that's just a curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you speaking about the funds from 2024 in particular, or historically, or both?
Oh, both. Yeah, both would be great. Yeah, just in general, is it always spent all the way through, or does it seem like there is money left on the table, so to speak, that's rolled over or put into another area?
Yeah. So historically, I think that there were quite a few different factors impacting why a fund balance accrued. Um, I think when after the audit and after DHS started more actively overseeing the administration of these funds, we went to a reimbursement type contract with Rocky Mountain Human Services, which is by far our largest contracted partner. So basically, they had to provide receipts for all of their costs for everything, and that becomes it's much harder for any agency to spend those dollars, which I think was kind of where the audit was getting us. But it became harder for them to fully expend. There's a lot more kind of work that we have to do to justify those funds. And at the same time, as anyone who's lived in Denver since 2015 knows, our property values skyrocketed. So we started getting a heck of a lot more money in than we were used to. And that's kind of another part of it too, where we want to make sure that we're spending these funds responsibly and in ways that are data driven and community driven. And so as this revenue continued to grow exponentially, we wanted to not just spend it to spend it, but spend it in a really meaningful way, which is part of why that happened too. So we're looking at spending much more intentionally, rather than just getting it all out. And at the same time, we are in the very unique and privileged position where our revenue is growing quite a bit. For 2024 in particular, we have a handful of contracts. I'll provide you a list of them in a bit here. And we obligate those funds to say, and we can kind of look at budgeted projections to say, this is how much we have within this contract. Of course, if we have funds that are within a contract, we can't spend them, right? Like they might not be spent yet. They haven't invoiced for us yet, but we can't contract out with other entities because those are tied up in a contract. But we don't know how much our contracted partners are going to spend. They can forecast that they're going to have this many costs, or they'll be able to do this program. But that they're always having to kind of respond to reality in that situation. And perhaps we budgeted a little bit too much in this line, or perhaps they actually gotten another revenue source, and we want to be mindful of using our mill levy funds to supplement all of our revenue sources rather than supplant. And so they didn't end up needing to use our funds. So there's multiple different reasons that those expenditures came down for each contracted partner. But at the end of the day, when we give a projection, we want to be pretty conservative and not, say that we have more money than we actually do. So we're going to tell you what we have obligated. And then usually it's going to be a little bit less than that when we're looking at the actuals at the end of the day. And I also want to give credit to one of our fantastic team members, Tom Gamache, that's sitting in the audience, for providing those really great definitions of revenue, expenditure, and fund balance. And then IDEAS team, if you wouldn't mind moving Tom over to a panelist, I just want to make sure to invite him to supplement anything what I'm saying, because he's really great at helping convey some of these concepts. And while we're working on getting Tom over, Michelle, I see your hand up.
Yes, this is this is Michelle. Michaela, I have a question about the nexus of when IDEAS identifies when the council identifies something that we should be working on, for example, like housing. And we've had outside consultants prepare information, and we had the Kelsey share with us. And how do we, how is it that the we move from collecting the data to doing something with the resources to, in this case, if at all, actually potentially build an asset, a housing asset,
Mhm.
and working with partners to build a housing asset. How do we go from, we've now got information from the Kelsey, we know that it's a need. The council has said, hey, housing is a critical thing,
Mhm.
employment is a critical thing. What's really like the 30,000 foot view? What's the next step that is going to be taken, if at all, towards an actual development of, even if it's a pilot asset, 4 or 5, 10 homes or something like that, or a building or a retrofit or something. But what's the next step towards, or first of all, has it been identified that the next step is something to do with an actual development, or are there steps still to go between where we are and even getting to an asset?
Such a great question, Michelle. And I really appreciate it. We can see we still have a lot of these dollars sitting in our piggy bank. And, now that we have done the work and collected the community thought and collected the data, let's get those dollars out the door to start making a difference in people's lives, right? Completely aligned with you there. So, and the information, fortunately, that I'm going to be able to share with you is somewhat limited. We need to be careful prior to releasing any RFPs. That stands for request for proposal. So, and basically what that is to say, hey, y'all, we've got this idea. We want to put some money out there for any housing developer or service provider. Send us a paper. Let us know how you would do it, and then we'll pick our favorite one and we can go for it. So before we do that, we have to be very careful about what information we release publicly, so that we can ensure that we're not providing any one entity with unfair advantage over another. What I can tell you is that I think it was, Jordan, remind me, was it August of last year that the council adopted all of the recommendations from the Kelsey?
Yes.
Okay. So since August of last year, the IDDEAS Advisory Council reviewed the Kelsey's report, adopted all of those recommendations, and Jordan has been working super diligently, researching all the ways that we could start to put those in action. To Michelle, your point, like what is the next step? And we do hope to provide you with some updates on that in the coming months. We do believe that we have some really great tangible next steps to take towards that. But we'll have to be a bit limited in the information that we can share until we're in a position where we're able to post requests for proposals, so that we are not violating any contracting laws or rules or regulations.
So this is Michelle. So Michaela, I don't want to see if I heard you when you said that the next step is to find more information related to how to take a next step, or is it that a next step is being taken? Are we still collecting more information, or we're now doing what the Kelsey said, and now we're going to do the things that the Kelsey said?
Go ahead, Jordan.
Thanks, Michaela. Yeah, that's a great question, Michelle. And I think really um, we've received those recommendations, and now it's just how do we work within our realm of scope of work and realm of control within the city to make those things happen? And as you know, we have partners within the city called the Department of Housing Stability Host, and they're really the experts in this work. And so before we can move forward on some of these things, we have to consult and engage with them. And so that's what we've been doing since March, is really talking to them about, okay, what could this look like? What kind of policies, procedures do we need in place to make this happen? And I mean, they've been great partners and there's some really good energy around this work. And so as Michaela mentioned, like we're getting very, very close to being able to share some of these exciting things. And I'm thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, Corey slash Michaela, I'm thinking we may talk about some of this housing stuff more in detail. But yeah, it's really around finding those partnerships and making that intentional effort to ensure that if we do want to pilot a housing development like this, how do we make sure that the residents of that housing are people with intellectual and developmental disabilities? Because at the end of the day, that's who we're serving with these dollars. And there's systems involved and different policies at the local and state level that we have to kind of navigate to make sure that that can happen. And it's just been all hands on deck situation, but um, there's a lot of people on board and trying to make this happen. So hopefully we have more updates for you.
Okay, thank you. This is Michelle. I just want to make a timestamp. It's 2:12.
Wonderful, thank you. So I will hop on to the next slide, where we can talk about 2025. So in 2025, we're looking, these are projections, and the projections are what we think will happen for this year. We anticipate that we will see our revenue come in at about just a little over 27 million. So about the same as we saw last year. We are anticipating our expenditures at about $27.57 million. Of that, just under a million, or about 800,000 would be administrative funds. So that's money that's expended by Denver Human Services to administer the funds. So you're thinking about my salary, the salary of my colleagues, other folks at DHS that support our contracts and paying our invoices. That's part of what goes into that administrative expenditures. Our pens, our paper, things like that. And then if our expenditures are at that level, that would bring our fund balance down just slightly from what it is now at about $22.2 million to $21.6 million. What I think is important to talk about expenditures. So the revenue forecast, that comes from the Department of Finance. They have really fantastic analysts and economists that are telling us what they're anticipating we're going to get in tax revenue. The expenditures, we're looking at both what we have obligated in contracts, money that we have told our community partners that is available for them to spend, and for contracts that last year over year. We're trying to kind of figure out, okay, for this year and this 4-year contract, based on past spending and what you have planned, we're anticipating that you're going to spend about this much. So that is our best guess. And again, it could end up being that our contracted partners end up spending a little bit more than what we're anticipating, or they could end up spending a little bit less. And so we can go on to the next slide. I know we've just got a couple minutes. So this slide shows a really big, long bar graph, and it looks at revenue, expenditures, and fund balance from 2018 to 2030. And so we see sets of 2 bars for each year. One is green, and that's revenue, and one is orange, and that's expenditure. And then we see a blue line, and that represents the fund balance. So you can see over time, our green lines are getting taller and taller and taller. That's the money that's coming in. And our revenue lines are growing, but up until about 2025, 2023, they're not growing quite as much as the green. So, you know what, folks? And I think I switched that up. I'm just noticing that I have revenue should be orange and expenditures should be green. And now I'm confusing my own self. So I apologize, and we'll be sending out a revised slide.
Phew.
As if this isn't more, this couldn't be more complicated. I do apologize.
It's no worries.
But what we are hoping to see, kind of bird's eye view, is that with the contracts that we have and the programs that we have now, if we continue funding at those levels, accounting for some inflation and continue to fund projects like housing navigation, continue our funding for Rocky Mountain Human Services, for mental health. We do work like voices and inclusion, that we're hoping that our fund balance will be, could possibly be down to just below $4 million, around $4 million by 2030, which is a pretty good reserve. We don't want to spend our fund balance down completely, because that would mean in the case of emergencies, we don't have anything to draw from year over year. This is also anticipating that all of our contracted partners fully extend all of their contracts, that we renew all of our pilots at the levels that we funded them initially, and that everything grows. So that's a pretty conservative estimate of what our spending is going to be. But as Brian led us in a conversation earlier, there's a lot of uncertainty at the federal level right now about what types of core services and supports are going to be provided for the IDD community. And so we want to be conservative. We want to err on the side that our contractors are going to have to spend all of their contracted funds to make sure that our dollars are being used to fill in those gaps that may exist from changes in the federal level, or even if the state level has to change in some of their funding, and be conservative in our budgeting in that way, so that we're not over committing in other areas and then don't have any money left over to help ensure that Denver residents have basic services and supports, at least through these next 4 years when the landscape is changing pretty dramatically. Corey, I think I'm at time. Thank you for reminding me.
Yep, that's all I wanted to say. Was it is 2:18 p.m. And so what I want to do is, there's still a lot to talk about. I think folks are interested in this and engaging in good conversation. Would you like to keep going and push break later, take break now and come back to this, or come back to this at another time?
This is Brian B.
Michelle. Okay, good. Go ahead, Brian.
This is Brian B. And I would weigh in that we go ahead and take a break now, and then come back if folks have thoughts on what Michaela shared, and leave at least a brief space for that, and see if we need to allocate more space and time at a future meeting. Pass.
So this is Michelle, and you just beat me to the punch, Brian. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Let's go ahead and take a break and then come back and see how much time we need after we come back.
And Molly said same in the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
This is Corey speaking again. Well, we've got 3 folks that agree that we can take a break now and come back to some final points on this presentation before moving to our next agenda item. If there's anybody on the council that wants to vocalize a difference in opinion on that, then do so now. Otherwise, we will move to break, and folks can turn off their cameras or just hang out, go and take care of themselves, and we will be back at 2:25 p.m. Thank you.
Thanks, Corey.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you all. And Tom, thanks for your preparation with that work, and for being with us now as we digest some of it together.
Absolutely, Brian.
So, yep. All right. See you back in a few.
Hi everyone, it is 2:25 p.m. So break is coming to an end. I'll give folks a second to turn on their cameras or give me some kind of confirmation that they are back, and then we will resume. Okay, welcome back everybody. This is Corey speaking. As mentioned before break, we are in the midst of a presentation by Michaela Hennick on the current fund balance and financial updates for the IDEAS Levy Fund. Michaela, what I'll do is I'll turn it back to you for your final points, and then we'll do our best to get to the next agenda item. Sound good? Alrighty. You are muted.
Yeah, thanks, Corey.
Thanks. So I had actually was almost wrapping up. I had one more slide that just provides an overview of all of our current contracted obligations. Let's see. Let's do slide 10, please. Thank you. So I'll have that available for you to review. We are working on some other contracts currently to extend the START programs offering through Rocky Mountain Human Services and our work with the library. That won't be listed on there since they have not been signed by both parties. They're not considered fully executed at this point. But that was really kind of my whole presentation. Again, I apologize for the mix up in the colors for that one slide. I'll get that corrected and out to you as soon as possible. But if anyone else has any additional questions, I'd be happy to answer those. Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, Michaela, could you just give me a basic verbal of what is the conclusion to be drawn of slide 17 when you correct the colors?
So the verbal overview is that we've seen more money come in than we've been able to spend up until 2023. So 2 years ago, we did end up seeing a greater need for funding for early intervention services for our Denver kiddos and money to our Rocky Mountain Human Services contracts to help our families meet their individual needs. A lot of basic needs coming up that we hadn't anticipated for help with things like rent, food assistance, emergency assistance. So we added some money to that contract in 2023. And for the first time since we started developing a fund balance, we were able to spend more money than we brought in. So that fund balance began to shrink. We saw it bop up a little bit again last year. We think it'll be about the same next year. But we are hopeful that with our current projects and making room for some of those next steps on the housing recommendations that Jordan was mentioning earlier, that we could see our fund balance potentially go down to a pretty modest reserve within the next 5 years, understanding that there is a lot of uncertainty there. given the changing policies for Medicaid and the state's budget difficulties right now. We are wanting to be very careful in how we contract our funds over the next 4 years, because we want to make sure that we have funds available to pay for basic community services for our Denver community with IDD in case we do see reductions in Medicaid spending or family services spending. Is that help, Brian?
Yeah, may I say that back to you?
Absolutely.
I'm going to throw this on street jargon. So, built up some money, 30 million-ish, peaking just a bit below 25 million. And as of now, looking forward, we've got some pretty solid plans in place to spend it. And we're going to be conservative to help ensure that Denver residents with IDD have at least basic services and some funding available.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right.
Thanks, Brian. And then what you're seeing now is a list of all of our contracted obligations that have been fully executed, with the exception of our Voices mini grants. Those are almost ready to for signature. They will backdate back to April 2025. That'll be the official start of those grants. And then in addition to that, we're working on continuing funding for our Denver Start program. That wraps up in June 2025. And for our Denver Public Libraries Digital Navigator program. That's not no. And so we should hopefully have an update on that soon as well.
Right. Is that about the end of your presentation there, Michaela?
It is.
Okay.
I think we can kind of move forward into the next piece of our meeting agenda, unless there's any additional questions. And I'd be happy to answer questions offline as well if there are any individual council members that want to talk through anything specific. Yeah, Brian.
Brian B. University NH stands for, or it just says Univ. NH.
Thank you. Yes, my apologies. That's the University of New Hampshire.
Okay.
They run the National Center for START services. They kind of help start programs like the one we have through Rocky Mountain Human Services that provides crisis services for folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities and mental health needs. So we've contracted with them to help Rocky Mountain Human Services develop their own START program.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. This is Corey speaking. I think I am going to go forward then and move along with our next agenda, because I think I'll just have enough time to get that done. What I would say, though, is please take Michaela up on her offer to reach out to her specifically if you have any questions about funding, how the funding is calculated, and current obligations or anything else related to that. And Jessica did put into the chat that she feels like green makes sense for revenue because money is green. So, great. With that, I'm just going to grab the mic, move on to the next agenda item, which is our Voices Mini Grants Denver Resident Feedback Survey. So in my last email not my last email, in one of my very many emails that I send to you all, I included the link to our Microsoft Forms Denver Resident Feedback Survey. This survey is intended to coincide with our Voices program. The way that it'll be used is alongside the direct reporting that every Voices mini grant vendor is expected to form with us. They are also expected to disseminate this survey, which will collect subjective ratings from community members who experienced in some way their services and their programs, and then we'll rate them how relevant they are to them, how relevant they are to their community, how inclusive they are, and the general state of inclusion here in Denver overall. It'll be information that we can hopefully take and use not just in our evaluation of the mini grants, but also in our evaluation of Denver as a whole. And so that we can see how inclusion is happening, what people may like about it, and what we might be able to do in the future with that information. So, Lynn, if you, as you said, you have the survey pulled up. If you wouldn't mind sharing the survey at this point, that would be useful. So give Lynn a second here to get that up. But what I would implore people to do is click the link on their own to be able to access it on their own. It'll be much easier because there's a good few questions on this. And so it's going to be hard for me to read them out all for you here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a general summary, and I'm going to invite council members to give me some recommendations, either on specific questions or on the survey itself as a general whole, in how we make this as effective and accessible for community members as possible so that the information that we're collecting is effective. So you all received a version of this that I've removed all grantee names. So the question number one here says, please select the DHS Voices community partner you connected with. This is the point where people will kind of tell us who gave them the survey, who they experienced services through, so that we know which program they might be rating specifically. What's important about that is each community member filling the survey out, if they go to multiple different programs that are Voices funded, they'll be asked to fill out a survey for each one. That way we can kind of parse out the data and information, make it meaningful to each. Because if they are rating how relevant their services are, we'd like to be able to know, well, how relevant one program services are to them versus another's. And then there's just some general information too of, people are allowed to fill out this on behalf of somebody else. We are also collecting information on whether or not they have an intellectual developmental disability, if they're a parent or a caregiver, and if they are a provider, if they work with or support somebody with IDD, such as being a teacher, a doctor, or other professional. And then the bulk of the information will actually be gathered. Thank you, Lynn. Sorry, I know I'm jumping around. Thank you, Lynn, for doing your best to follow along with me here. But the bulk of the information will be this Likert scale, where people rate whether they strongly disagree to strongly agree, with some ratings in between on these 10 questions. I believe there are 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep, 10 questions. Again, trying to assess their general feelings of how much this program might have aligned with their cultural background, their experience, their individual goals and interests, and how these methods might be relevant to them, and whether or not just this program overall promoted inclusion. So I'm going to let Lynn just kind of slowly scroll through this one, let everybody kind of take it in. And as I said, please feel free to review this on your own time and then send me any ratings or feedback in case you can't see it right now.
Or is Brian B, I offer to read some of this aloud if that helps you and or our listeners.
Yeah, you know what? I think we actually can do that. If there's 10, what I would say is do it clearly, but if you can do it somewhat quick enough, that'd be great because I want to invite discussion. And so I want to make sure that we have enough time for that. But go ahead, Brian.
Sure. Okay. Again, Voices, mini grants, and your experience with them. Department of Human Services sending this out to the community. One, please select the partner you're working with of 11 choices. Two, did you connect with them directly or are you filling this out on behalf of someone else. And then three, this program promoted inclusion in Denver. I agree, disagree, or strong or neutral. Through this program, I felt a sense of belonging. Again, agree, disagree, or strong or neutral. This program helped connect me to my community. This program goals were relevant to me and to my interests. Agree, disagree, neutral. This program's methods aligned with my community's values. This program included my input and my goals in its services. This program considered my culture and identities. This program served me in my preferred language. The methods this program used were effective. I felt included throughout this program. Of the 6 questions on this survey, that was all under question 3. The next one's, do you have an intellectual or developmental disability? Yes, no, or not sure. Number 5, are you the parent or caregiver of someone with IDD or developmental disability? Yes, no, not sure. And the last one, do you work with or support someone with IDD? Yes or no? Pass.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. There is a second section to this that gets into how people feel about the inclusion of in Denver as a whole, regardless of their experience with voices. Before I get to that section, I want to stop here, pause here, think about these questions that Brian just read aloud, and invite council members to weigh in and have a direct hand in kind of shaping this survey again so that it is most effective in reaching our community and in gathering that information to be able to be used by our program for the benefit of the community. So go ahead, take some time to think, and then offer your suggestions and feedback. I will be taking notes.
This is Jessica.
Yeah, go ahead, Jessica.
For the question where you're supposed to be rating the different statements, it didn't look like any of the statements appeared there.
Okay, so they didn't come up. How did you access this? Did you use this?
With the link,
Okay.
and with the using VoiceOver on the Mac as screen reader, for some reason it didn't look like those statements were there.
That's actually super good. I was wondering, so this is all Microsoft Forms. I was wondering how well Microsoft Forms does with screen readers and things like that. Were you able to access the other questions?
Yes, the other questions were fine. It's just that section, it didn't look like it didn't show that in any of those statements. It just said a table, and it showed like agree, disagree.
Okay.
But it didn't show any, it didn't read out, I should say, any of the statements.
That's actually super, super helpful for me, Jessica. I think I actually have an easy fix for that. I think what I can do is ins- instead of using this function of Microsoft Forms, is take each individual statement, make them an individual question outside of the table itself.
Yeah.
And if it's reading those other questions, then it will
Yeah.
read those in that way. And there's actually ways for me to put in some different rating skills using that. So that actually might be of benefit in a few ways. Can I ask you this, Jessica? If I do that, can I send you another sample form for you to try test out your screen reader on, and you let me know if it works?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so helpful. Thank you.
Mhm.
And there we have the Community Advisory Council in action. Thank you very much for speaking up.
Thank you, Jessica. This is Corey again speaking. Did anybody else have any feedback that they wanted to provide for this? And it doesn't have to be about the individual statements. It can be about the survey as a whole or anything else that you want to say about collecting community input in evaluating our services.
This is Molly. Corey, one thought I have or wondering too, if this is also the survey is for participants who are receiving Voices mini grants, correct? I just want to clarify that again. That this would be for people who people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in Denver who have received services or something else,
Potentially. So,
potentially.
yeah, so I can give you a little bit of context if you would like that. I realize I might have left that out. Uh, Let me explain the Voices mini grants just a little bit, very high level since we don't have much time. The Voices mini grants are a program for $500,000 to be disseminated to some community partners to provide a wide variety of different programs that promote inclusion and intersectionality throughout Denver. There's a lot of different programs doing a lot of different things. And so some of them might be holding events, some of them might be doing direct services with other people. I can't name or specify exactly what everybody's doing because we haven't quite executed yet. We are so close to doing that, but we will soon, and then you'll all know who's doing what. But they're all very different. And so this survey will go out to people who have received direct services, as well as anybody else who's connected to that program, however they may have connected. Since each program's so different, that might look different for each participant. And so the benefit of these mini grants is that we have generally 11 partners who will send this out to their networks, to people who have met them, talked to them, done whatever it is that they are inviting them to do, whether that be a direct client receiving some kind of direct service or somebody who's coming up to their event at some Denver location. And then they'll be able to kind of say, base these ratings on that experience that they had with them, that whatever that may have been. I feel like that may have muddled the waters a little bit more. So let me know if that explained anything more for you, Molly, if that
Thank you, Corey. I appreciate it because the context is useful for sure. I was just wondering if an option for individuals who benefit from more visuals would be an option as well. If there's like a differentiated surveys that could be, if that's possible, or if that would be feasible or useful for your data. So like having another different options of surveys, and then also if this is offered in other languages as well. So just thinking about like that, if that would be helpful or not, or thinking like, a number of individuals I work with prefer to have more pictures for things to be able to like help them with answering surveys. So that's just something I was thinking of.
Yeah, that's a wonderful consideration. I do plan to um I do plan to have these translated for other languages. And then exploring perhaps other options that somebody might have a different preference for might be useful. I don't think it'd be hard for me to duplicate and then tailor each duplicate. I'd have to look into it though, and see what the work entails there. With my fix offered to Jessica, I do think I can actually integrate more visuals from that. The way that I have it here doesn't let me do that, but if I do individual questions, it lets me do rating scales where people can rate using stars or happy faces, things like that, which might be something that people like. Michaela actually thought about that before, and so I think I might move away from this and do something a little bit more visual. And I'll explore different options for people. We're going to get this translated in different languages, and we'll try to make sure that this is accessible to screen readers. And so, thank you, thank you both so much for that feedback. That is super helpful. So the second section, if Lynn, you want to scroll down into inclusion in Denver there, I'll go over this quickly. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't realize you actually had to click another button. I'm looking at it from the back end, so um, that's great to know. So this next section explores if people their relationship to Denver. So first asks, are you a Denver resident? Then it asks, do you work or receive services in Denver? Then you get into another rating scale. And I think I'll have to break this out again with Jessica's feedback. I imagine that table did not also work for a screen reader. But then there are 5 questions asked here. First one says, Denver is an inclusive city for people with IDD or developmental delay. And then again, people are going to be rating whether they agree or disagree with this. And then Denver has plenty of recreational opportunities available to people with IDD or developmental delay. Denver has plenty of employment opportunities available to people with IDD or developmental delay. Denver has plenty of inclusive housing available to people and families with IDD or developmental delay. And then the final one says, in Denver, I feel connected to my community. There is one final question that invites anybody filling out this survey to share any additional stories, feedback or comments, and we're always open for anybody who's ever experienced any of our services to kind of offer us any kind of nice little successes or stories or pictures if they ever want to do that. I mean, does anybody have any feedback on this part of the survey?
Um, I actually we need to invest in some screen reader technology so we can test this ourselves. It's a little embarrassing. I was wondering, some of these questions, the have a red star next to them indicating that they're required. Also, does that sense of required question come across in the screen reader version?
This is Jessica. With voiceover, it does say the question is required.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
Thanks, Jessica. Sorry,
And also
this is Lynn. Sorry.
yeah, but I also wanted to say too that different screen readers might work a little bit differently as well. Like some things that are not accessible with the Windows-based screen readers might be accessible with VoiceOver, which is like Mac and Apple products based, and vice versa. So like Windows-based ones would be JAWS, NVDA. Those are the only ones I can name, anyways. Those are the ones most people would use. NVDA is free. JAWS does cost, and VoiceOver is free on Apple products.
Cool. Thank you, Jessica.
Mhm.
With that in mind, is there a different software or tool that you know of that works better with screen readers? Like if I put this survey on something else, like a Google Doc or something like that,
Um,
are any of those better?
Google, my experience with Google Forms is it seems pretty good. And also like SurveyMonkey is usually pretty decent.
Wonderful.
Or
Well, that's
I've done, I don't know if this is a company or a platform, but Qualtrics. I've done some surveys on them and they're very accessible. I don't know if that's a company or a survey platform.
well, I can look into it. This is actually super helpful information. So thank you so much, Jessica. Okay. We've got about one more minute here before I get into, I have a little poll for y'all that I want to do, just for agenda prioritization. But just one final invitation for advisory council members to have a direct hand in guiding and designing the survey. Does anybody have anything else that they want to say about this?
This is Brian B. I'll just say thank you. Thank you, Denver Human Services, for helping administrate this, but then also with the forethought to ask people, what was your experience like, and to get this community evaluation. Pass.
This is Corey speaking. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. Michelle, I promise I will give back the reins to you very soon. But at this point, I'd like to talk about forecasting for next meeting as well as just generally other meetings. And what I've done is I've created a poll, which I know that I haven't used before. And so this is a bit of a test for us all. So breathe an uncertainty with me for that. We'll see if this works. So there's two things I want to say. One is, first and foremost, if this poll is in no way accessible to you, I don't know what it's going to do with screen readers or anything like that. If it does not work, I will read out all the options allowed, and you are welcome to use the chat or any other method of engaging that you would like. Another thing is, I will ask that only our advisory council members engage with this poll. So any non-voting or voting members can please vote into this poll. All other DHS staff, as well as guests who are attending today, please don't. Just let it be. If I see that there's, anything um, anything askew with our data, as in there's more people voting than we have council members online, I'll just ask people to engage with us in the chat here. So let me launch this thing. Hope it works without doing anything. But everybody should now see a poll that is titled Agenda Item Voting. And it has one question that you will all vote on. And I'm asking which agenda item is most important to you. The first one being an update on DHS's public relations and marketing work. The second one being Voices mini grant vendors speaking at IAC meetings. The third one being information on Colorado Office of Disability Funding. And the fourth one being IDD determination deep dive informational session. Each of these agenda items are something that you have all, or somebody within this group has requested prior. And so we just want to know which one is most important to you. So go ahead and vote right now.
Corey, this is
Yeah.
Molly speaking. I have a message that says host and panelists cannot vote.
Cool.
It did come up though as soon as you said it. So, but like,
Yeah, it's at the bottom.
I
and
tried to if I could override it, and it's still not letting me.
I thought I had gone in and made sure that that was not the deal. I wonder, okay. I'm gonna try to fix this, but I think that's a lost cause. Especially since Zoom is
This is
resetting
Molly.
here.
I do really appreciate trying to do the poll quiz, like Corey. It's a great. Thank you for trying something different.
Thank you. Thank you for saying thank you. Okay. Well, it won't let me edit it right now, I think because it's in process. So here, let me end it and see if I can edit it. Then, nope, still can't edit it. Okay. Well,
Can we do it if we individually change our thing to everyone?
oh, here, wait. I think I can. Oh, can I relaunch this? Oh, please tell me it. No. Relaunch poll. Here, wait, try this now.
Okay.
Did it work?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Woo!
And
Corey, so before answering, I want to get one point of clarity.
yeah.
On these four things, this would be like what we want to talk about next because as I'm thinking about, these are all great things to talk about.
Yeah, so
That's just what we want to do next,
this is
right?
just what we're prioritizing. So you
Okay,
will,
got you.
anything that isn't selected today will still keep as an option to be
Okay.
talked about later.
Okay, got you.
So yeah, so we're not saying no to any of these. We're just trying to see like which one do we need to kind of like make sure that we're having sooner than later, according to what you all think and all that. So
This is Michaela too. I'm sorry to interrupt. And I just wanted to let you all know that we are planning a housing update too. Michelle, you had a lot of great questions and we do have some updates we want to share. So hopefully we'll be able to get at least some of that to you next month. And we'll probably have housing updates regularly throughout the year after that. But we wanted just to make sure that you all knew that we've heard you and your various requests for agenda items and make sure that we're considering your priorities as we build out the agendas for the meeting moving forward. And with that, Lynn and I are going to have to excuse ourselves. I'm so sorry. We've got another meeting we have to attend to, but you're in the fabulous hands. So we will see you soon. Thank you all so much for everything. And don't hesitate to reach out with me with any budget questions. Bye.
bye-bye. Brian, I do see your hand up. Go ahead.
When we have moved on from this and before we adjourn, I feel like we never said, are there any community updates today? So I want to give a chance for that. Pass.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me just check to see how many council members we have remaining. 2, 3, 4. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I guess that would be everything then. Everyone, I mean. Um, and so there we have it. We have a tie between Voices mini grant vendors speaking at ISC meetings and information on Colorado Office of Disability Funding, with then the IDD determination deep dive informational session coming in technically third after that. So what I'll do is I will note those. Um, there's the results in case you can't see them, but let me just take some notes to make sure I have these, and then we can move on to community updates as requested by Brian.
Hey, folks, this is your chance to share what's going on in the IDD Denver community, and then we'll wrap up today's meeting. I'll share a short fun one. There's a group that has people with and without disabilities dancing together, and they performed at Children's Hospital Colorado last week in the foyer, free. You don't have to buy a ticket, and those that were available to be on hand to show some love, get the dance vibe. Anything else?
This is Molly. Brian, may I ask what's the name of that organization? know some folks who are interested in doing more community dance.
Sure. Spoke N motion dance. Letter N
Oh.
like Nancy.
Yeah, I am familiar with them. I was just wondering if there was a new organization time. But yeah, Spoken Motion is awesome. My cousin is a member.
Oh, right on. Who's your cousin?
Dan. Yeah, I
We
go
all
to
love-
performances all the time. Yeah, I used to actually dance with them years ago, but
Oh, right on.
yeah.
Right on. Any other community updates? All right. Well, if not, back over to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Brian. This is Michelle. So I think to take a minute for making mention, Corey, you can help out with our next meeting, which is the 27th. And I guess we will get our agenda to figure out what from those things just voted upon is going to be on there. So that sounds amazing. Corey, can I officially ask that we close it out?
You can. Do I mind if I just say like one final thing?
Yes, I mind.
Oh no. Okay. Oh, you've taken away control from me, Michelle, which I actually appreciate. But I'm gonna do this anyways. Uh, what I would say is, what I just had y'all vote on is something we will prioritize. But if there are new agenda items, like obviously we're not including that, please send them to me. Send them to me or Michaela, and we'll make sure that we consider those for upcoming meetings. And then you're welcome to close it out, Michelle.
Okay, before I close it out, I just want to make one clarifying thing. We are gonna uh well, you know what? It's fine. We'll see when the agenda comes out. That'll be totally fine. Okay, so with that being said, I see that Brian has motion to close at 3:03 and today, and that Jessica second, and then she asked about waiver services. So let's maybe you can get some clarifying off camera comments from Jessica to know exactly what she would like about waiver services. And so now it's 3:06. So 305, 306. And could we all please vote in the chat that we want to adjourn?
Okay.
So
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.